there's something amazing about trying to just be a vehicle for creating and getting out of your own head and just kind of like flowing with things. I'm a fan of just doing whatever the hell I want to do. I listen to my gut and I don't listen to all the other outside things.
On today's episode of the Fahrenheit podcast, we are joined by Typoe Gran, a multifaceted Miami-based artist whose work defies categorization and continually evolves with the urban landscape. Through his bold, energetic, and innovative approach to art, Typoe challenges viewers to reconsider their perceptions of beauty, identity, and the world around them. He often combines traditional graffiti elements with contemporary artistic techniques, creating visually striking pieces that challenge conventions, push boundaries, and explore new artistic frontiers. His work explores themes of urban culture, identity, consumerism, and the human experience. Born and raised in Miami and growing up surrounded by diverse cultures and artistic influences, he developed a passion for art at a very young age. And in that young age, I met Typoe through my father, Arthur Weiner. My father was developing private art for public consumption in a project in Chicago called the Arts Initiative. And it was there that my father saw his passion, his dedication, and his creativity come to life, and where I got the opportunity to meet Typoe and be a part of his work. It's only fitting that we were able to sit down together in Miami, in our hometown, following my father's death. This conversation is dedicated to you, Dad, for always inspiring us and bringing so much energy, heart, and magic to all of our lives. Welcome, Typoe.
Typoe, welcome to the Fahrenheit podcast and Offsite. This is a first for us here at Fahrenheit. So to start, I want to ask what creativity means to you.
What creativity means to me? I mean, I think it just means being true to myself, I guess, and trying to be honest with myself and not make things that I think other people want or the market wants. And kind of just like, I'm a fan of just doing whatever the hell I want to do. And I feel like that's when I find the most success, is when I just like, I listen to my gut and I don't listen to all the other outside things. I don't listen to critics. I don't listen to people. I don't listen to people saying what's going to sell better. I just like do whatever the hell I want. And then that always ends up having me going in the right direction.
What was the moment like for you where you first found like that creative pull away from like the thorn, right? The moment where you were like, no, that's what everyone wants me to do, but how am I going to actually go in this direction instead? When did you find that and how did you harness it?
I mean, it was, I think in like 2008, 2009 was when I had like those first moments. I think before that, nobody really cared about anything I did.
My dad, maybe.
and so it was like, it was before that. I mean, yeah, the first painting I sold ever was for like $263.
Cool.
And that was like the most exciting thing that has ever happened to me. And then I remember, because my mom is an artist, my older sister's an artist, my great aunt is an artist, and she used to carve with a chisel into marble and make sculptures. And so it's kind of in the family. And I remember my great aunt was like, you're now an artist, like almost like knighting me into the world after I sold that first painting. And then in like 2009, I made my first sculpture where like I was making it and I just felt something. Like, you know, when you're doing something and you feel like a calling and you're like, holy shit, this is it. And I just like, I knew I was having a moment and I made it. And then pretty much overnight, I had press like all over the world. We were exhibiting it during like Miami Art Week. And then from here to Europe to Japan to everywhere, people were just like looking at it and things were starting to sell. And it was like, from one week to the next, I was like in magazines and all these things. So it was like really weird trying to like understand like and balance like the differences from like before to then after. And then also trying to deal with how to follow that up, because like that was really like debilitating for me in the beginning because I was so young, because I'm 40 now. And so when that happened, like I was like not even 30 yet, I don't think. And so like, I was just like, oh my God, that was like the best thing I've ever made in my life. How do I do that again? Everyone's like, what's next? What's coming up? What's going on? And I was like, fuck, I have to follow that up. And then I think now I understand momentum, and I didn't understand before. And so like, I think the pressure, I let that get to me mentally. And so that kind of like paused a lot of stuff where like I kept trying to follow up and just trying to outdo it instead of just trying to like feel it and try to be like a vehicle for creation and just let it flow, which is how I got there in the first place. And so like that was probably like the first major lesson in creativity, is to like learn how to get the hell out of my own way and just kind of like let it happen.
How do you get out of your own way?
I figured out that thinking is probably like my worst enemy, is like me just thinking about anything. It's like, it's just like, you have to, did you read the Rick Rubin book
No.
about creativity? It's unbelievable.
Homework
If
for the
anyone
team.
here has read it,
Has anyone here read it?
it's so
Ooh,
good.
Look at
And
that.
it's so like every page, you could read one page and then just think about it and then just sit in it and meditate on it. And it's like there's something amazing about trying to just be a vehicle for creating and getting out of your own head and just kind of like flowing with things. Like he has this one exercise where he'll just like look around, he'll open a book and point to something, and then like he'll like flow off of that. And it's just getting out of yourself and just connecting with what's around you. And I feel like when I'm truly in that state and I'm just open to the world, I start hearing things that like resonate with me more. I start connecting with things more. I'm hearing what other people are saying where I'm like, oh, that inspires me, and oh, that made me think of something, and then I make it. Whereas like when I'm in my head, I'm not really hearing everything around me and I'm not present. And so I think being present is probably like the biggest thing.
Being present is such a hard thing, especially in today's world. And to your point, as an artist, the pressure to kind of one-up yourself every single time is so immense. And then you add in day-to-day life, and you add in, public opinion, and you add in everything that comes.
Yeah, Instagram. It's like, oh yeah, you have to be posting all the time. You have to like, it looks like other people are doing things. Do I have to be doing that? If not, you feel like, are you doing enough? Are you not? It's like there's all these weird pressures.
It's a much different world, I think, today than it was before, because even if you try to be quiet, there's only a limit to how quiet you can be while living in a commercial world, while having ambition, while trying to be successful in this way as an artist, as a public artist. And so how have you over time as an artist figured out how to balance like the real world pressure with finding and that space for creativity?
Yeah, I try to like pull back and be in my own world as much as I can. Like I think of making work almost like somebody's making an album. And so it's like I try not to give away everything. You don't just release like parts of songs. It's like some artists are, in their studio on Instagram and they're like, check me out, I'm in the studs with my dudes. And I'm just like, I don't really do that. I kind of just, I like it more like a magic trick where I'm just kind of like, surprise, like I have a whole new body of work and here's a bunch of crazy sculptures that I've been working on for like 9 months. And I like that, where you're like kind of redefining who you are, trying to work through the kinks of everything. And then you're ready to like sort of share that album with the world.
Obviously, as an artist sharing your album with the world, the art you create, the sculpture, the installation is just kind of one piece of the overall experience. Right? There's the audience, the press, social media that comes with it, the business model that comes with it, like the structure around all of it. How do you bring your creativity into maybe the non-literal part of your work? Right? So maybe that's the rollout or the press or like partnerships.
Just how I approach the business.
Right? How do you approach the business side? And how does creative and creativity play a role in that?
I mean, that's everything, because I think everybody operates differently. Everything to me is connected into what I do. And so like the projects I choose, like my whole practice is me responding to things. I'm responding to a space. I'm responding to the public. I'm responding to the market. I'm responding to a brand. I'm always sort of just having a dialogue with the community. And so like, that's like what my work is. And so I feel like, number one, I have to be honest with myself. So like, a lot of people hit me up, or like a brand will write me and be like, oh, we should do this, that, and the other. And like, if it doesn't make sense, like my manager will tell you 2 seconds, Jacob will be like, I instantly will be like, this does not resonate. I don't want it. And he'll be like, hear him out anyways. And I'll do it. And it's like good. It's a good practice to just like hear things out. But like, I know instantly if I like something or don't. And it's like, like I did a project with Rag & Bone years ago. It's like, that's the only jeans I wear. I like it. It's clean. It's minimal. It's high quality. I respect it. I love what they do. It made sense. I did something with Rimowa recently. It makes sense. It's clean. They're at the top of their game. It's like, it has to make sense for me. But then there's other things that are nice, but it just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? And so I kind of have to be real with myself, and I don't really care at that point, like what monetary value there is for me. I just want to make sure that it's right for who I am.
Do you feel like once you found that clarity of like what's right for you, that it's easy? Do you feel that it's easy every
Very
day?
easy.
Or is it something you have to keep working at and harnessing? And
That part is
point.
really easy because I really am specific and I know what I like. But it's nice because people on my team challenge me and they're like, sit on it for a few days and see if it like anything comes to you. Because like I usually connect with something instantly and I'm like, oh yeah. Like when I walk into a space and I'm like the PAM or the Warhol Museum, like I instantly see it and I'm like, I know exactly, like I have a vision of like what needs to happen, or like multiple visions of like how I want to respond to the space. And then I quickly just like draw it out. And I always give 3 options because like you don't ever want to give a client one thing because if they don't like it, then they come back. But if you give them 3, then all of a sudden everyone starts fighting over which one is their favorite. And so like to me, that
we
is
know that
always-
well.
And so like that's always a good thing. And then it's also a good exercise for me. Like, okay, like I'm doing an installation in a stairwell. I need to come up with 3 amazing ideas that one to me is better than the next one. And I'm almost fighting with myself over which one I want to do. And I always recommend them and I tell them like, this is the one that I would prefer to do, but also like, tell me what you guys are responding to.
In design thinking, which we just introduced, and many people here know what that is, but we just reintroduced it to the team before you arrived. We were talking about the importance of viability and feasibility in anything that you do. How, as an artist, do you ensure that those big ideas that you sketch out also like make sense, right? Like for us as marketers and creatives, we have to look at everything from what the customer wants to the budgets, which is like the big one.
Oh, the budget.
The
Yeah.
team to, is this actually possible within the timeline? Like, how do we really make this happen? For us as an agency, that work isn't always like coming from necessarily who we are, but more from who the client is. So when it's you having to put your stamp, your creativity, your soul into something, how do you then also make sure that it's viable?
It's
feasible?
both. It's understanding who our client is and then also knowing our limitations, right? Like I have to know within like the first thing I ask them immediately is what's your timeline and what's your budget? Because number one, I don't want to waste their time because they could be like, oh yeah, we want you to design an entire house. You have till Tuesday. And I'm just like, that's not happening, And so like I have to keep it real with myself in terms of the time. And then I like to get that's why I always ask what the budget is first, so then I can design within that. Because if not, I tell them I'll give them the craziest thing they've ever seen. And like, if you give me all the rope that I can have, I will design until the cows come home. And so I like having parameters and building a box around myself and giving myself rules for each project. And I'm like, oh, okay, what's the ethos of this brand that I'm working with? And then what's my ethos? And like, how do I, because they come to me because they like what I'm doing. And then I'm responding to them because I like what they're doing. How do I marry those 2 things so like they can have a relationship and like it connects and it creates like a harmony?
So interesting. While you were talking just now, I was thinking about brand strategy, which is really like a framework. It's the boundaries, if you will, or the rules that we have to follow when we're thinking about how we bring a brand to life. And without them, you're sort of like tetherless. Like there are no rules. There are no requirements. Anything is possible, which is wonderful to imagine, but not realistic. It's not
terrible actually
feasible.
to
It's
work
actually
with.
terrible.
I don't like when they don't. I tell them, I'm like,
you need the boundary.
Yeah. Tell me what you need, what you don't need. Like if there's any restrictions, like I ask for as many rules as possible, color restrictions, whatever. So I can just, it helps define. Because if not, then the road is so wide open that you could literally do anything. And then I'm just like, is it a sculpture? Is it a mural? Is it light? Is it a poem that somebody's whispering through a microphone? Like it could be anything at that point, and then I can get ridiculous. And so I like to get reeled in for my own sanity.
Yeah, the reeling in is actually like a very important part of the creative process. And I actually feel like it gives you a more interesting challenge, because from the place of the restrictions, the rules, in our case, parameters or brand strategy, is where then you actually have to start to like, work the muscles and start to like really think, how do I accomplish the goal or the
That's when you
mission
get creative.
within it?
Like,
That's where you get
my
creative.
favorite part of my work is problem solving. Like I love problem. Like even like when I did this like massive hanging sculpture for Ramoa that they commissioned for me, and they have the sculpture in the design district, and it's 76 pieces. Each single piece has 3 connecting holes into the ceiling. I had to get the schematics of the ceiling. I get there with my entire crew. We laid out a corresponding hole sequence on the floor that then we shot up with lasers into the ceiling. The ceiling pattern was incorrect that they gave me. And if you move anything a centimeter, the entire thing shifts. And so we had to problem solve on the spot. And I said, okay, this has to move like this. And now this piece moves this way. And then this other one has to move up 1 inch. And then this one has to move over. And so like, I like problem solving and I like figuring things out on the spot. And like, that's also why like I'm a big believer in like having the team, because we all do what we do really well. And so it's like, I just make things. Like that's what I do. And then I have like everyone else around me that is just like amazing at all the jobs. And so it's like, I feel like if you have your whole crew there, then it's like, all right, everyone put your heads in. There's no problems. There's only solutions. I don't want to hear anything about whatever the problem is. I just want to hear like, great, something happened. What are the 3 ways that we're going to solve it? Pick A, B, or C and just go. And then like the faster we get at it, the faster it gets solved. And then I like to do things like really efficiently and really quickly. Like I almost meditate before I do an installation, and I try to make it as like, I almost picture every paint stroke and every mark and every movement. So when I get there, I'm almost like a machine, and I kind of just, okay, yeah, I already did this and this goes here, and I kind of just like do it, and I know how it is, so it's really fast, and I try to make the time on site as short as possible.
Problem solving is in and of itself creative.
Yeah.
I think that's what's actually so interesting about what you just said. And one of the little like light bulbs that went off when we were planning this offsite was actually something that was so small, but I'm famously building like / renovating a house that was supposed to be like a small job and is no longer, because
It's never a small job.
no, it's never a small job. But we were in this like predicament, and me and my contractor were like putting our heads together like for literally hours, like throwing ideas of like, how do we solve this problem? One that like would ultimately get my house shut down because we're doing it without a permit. And the solution that we came up with was so creative, if I may say so myself, very brilliant. And I'm pretty sure I called either Chloe or Danny, and I was like, this is creativity. Yeah. Creativity is not that I'm the interior designer of the house or like the person bringing in all the art. The creativity actually came from the problem solving, the critical thinking, the like really putting our heads together and actually coming up with like a pretty dope solution.
Yeah.
So how do you feel as an artist that bleeds into like who you are as a person? The essence of being creative.
That's everything. That's my whole life. Like life is, I always tell everyone that I just assume that something's going to go wrong tomorrow. And so like, number one, I'm never surprised.
Good way to be.
You know, when people are like, oh my God, I can't believe this thing happened today. I can. It's not that unbelievable.
Are you prepared or cynical?
Yeah,
I don't know.
something is going to go wrong tomorrow. Great. And I'm just ready to solve the problem. Like I know I'm going to have to solve something tomorrow. So it's not a surprise. Who cares? Solve it. Have fun while you're doing it. Because like if I get hit by a bus next week, I don't want to be sad all week because there's problems. Like, because that's just life. It's like, what if a check doesn't come in? What if somebody goes bankrupt and they can't pay me? What if, who knows? Like anything could happen. And so what if a piece of artwork gets destroyed? Like one of the biggest jobs in my life could get canceled, which has happened 100 times. And that's just part of the game. And you like learn from it, you move forward, and you just keep it positive because it's like, whatever, who cares?
I too am pushing 40, and I love to tell my team that all the time, but I'm pushing 40, and I feel like in my older age, I've learned that when I was younger, I used to try and like fix the circumstances around me. Yeah. It was like, how do I, eradicate the problems? How do I like just fix them, solve them, try and avoid them? And then you really learn they are inevitable. Yeah. Like there is absolutely nothing you can do. And I think the real work actually begins when you work on your reaction to the problems. I feel like one of the things we're really good at here at Fahrenheit is actually solving problems in the sense of like we love a emergency situation, we're very good at them. And part of it is because at a certain point you realize like that is life. That is going to happen.
Everything. Have you had any
Everything.
projects that haven't had an emergency situation or the clients being ridiculous or like whatever?
Anyone?
We all have that. That's just like a part of any game.
Yeah, I
don't
think
care.
The real challenge is your reaction to them. The real challenge is your relationship to them. Like, how do and I feel like the way I used to respond to like even an annoyed client 5 years ago would send me into an actual tailspin. Like, I think I was a failure. I used to think I couldn't solve it. I thought they were going to fire me.
And all that does is hurt all of our quality of life.
Absolutely.
And so in the end, who's paying for it? We are.
No question.
And so I realized like, oh, if I know a problem's coming, I'm just going to solve it. No matter what it is, something could like, it's just life.
Do you think that's made you a better artist?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's just made me, I think it's just made me like more comfortable in like who I am and just things flow better. Everything, relationships, friendships, work, like everything is just better because, you're not so stressed about things.
Yeah. You grew up obviously in a creative household with creative influences. Do you think that your creativity was nature or nurture?
I mean, I was born making art. I literally would be like drawing on everything all over the walls with crayons. Like that's all I've ever done. Like I was either going to live in a cardboard box or be an artist. Like I had no other options. That was it. And thank God it worked.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. My parents are still like, I can't believe it worked.
Yeah.
That's crazy. My grandma was like, I didn't think it was going to work. And we were a little worried for a while.
My parents feel the way about my sister every day, so I get it.
Yeah, well, it's a hard job. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I have friends that are my age that live in a warehouse and shower with a hose.
Yeah.
And it's like they're not giving up on the dream and they're like hustling. And it's like, I mean, when I started out working at a gallery for free, taking out the garbage, painting all the walls for their shows, like all the way at the bottom, because I was like, all right, I'm going to put myself around the people that I want to be like and just soak it in. I'm not even showing anyone my work or I just put myself in a position to hopefully win. And it's like the first I think I was, and back then I was at like Barnes and Noble or something and I was in the business book section. And then it was like this thing, it was like about like the circle of people you have around you. And it was like, put yourself around the people you wanted to be like. And I was like, check, I could do that. So I started going to art shows and then I was like, those people. And I was like, I'm going to help you take out your garbage. And they were like, okay, weirdo. And like, that's what I was doing. And I just put myself around them. And every day after work, I was selling furniture at West Elm. I was painting murals in kids' rooms and for backdrops for music videos and other things. Like I was just doing a million different things. And then I was just praying to baby Jesus that something was going to happen. Yeah. And you just keep showing up and hopefully something happens. And back then my art was terrible too. If I saw it now and that kid was here, I would be like, dude, give up. It's terrible. And people did tell me to give up. And people were like, you can't do this, but you could do that. And it's also like, you could have a vision for what your life could be or your agency or whatever. And like, because it hasn't been done or done the way that you want it, or people just don't agree with it, or it's not like typical, people will tell you can't do it. And that's like, don't ever listen to anyone because most people are wrong about everything anyways.
That's true, actually. I like that. I think at Fahrenheit as an agency, what's so interesting is we never set out to build an agency. That wasn't like a game plan. I didn't have like an aha moment where I'm like, I want to start an agency. I think it was more organic. We, first and foremost, I think, wanted to build brands and wanted to do it in a way that in some ways felt different than a lot of agencies. And that was because it always came back to and started with people and culture. Yeah. And I think for us, ours is all about how do we scale an organization and deliver world-class brand and world-class creative, but doing it our way and our unique way, which in and of itself, one, causes some problems. There are frictions. There are a lot of things that we could do like other agencies that we refuse to do, where we hold our ground and we hold our boundary, and it bites us, I'm going to do that wrong, guys. What's the metaphor? Bites us in the ass, kicks us in the foot. Okay, I got that one right. Thank you.
Punches you in the face, whatever.
Thank you. Punches us in the face. That's a good one. I'll use that. I'm famous for my bad metaphors. And I think that part of that is actually having like it's two things you said. One is like conviction and confidence of self.
Yeah.
Is like, no, I am unwavering in my values. That's one thing for sure. Unwavering in the vision of what we're trying to create and how we want to wake up every day. But then two, it's also like having the courage and the confidence to like not listen to other people.
Yeah.
And
That's
I think
huge.
that's huge. That's really huge,
Well,
and it's
because
really
who
hard.
you are, and no one else knows who you are, and they don't know until you show the world. And it's like people will always doubt everything. Like any great sports figure, any great anything, like any great musician, people are just like, yeah, cool, man, go play your stupid guitar. And then it's like, Nirvana's there. And it's just like, it's just, that's how it is. Nobody knows, but you know what you have inside of you, and you know what you have to offer. And you just have to like do it. I can't tell you how many curators would come into my studio and be like, you can't work with brands and do museums and do the galleries and do all this stuff and get in the world's best collections. And I was like, I'm going to do whatever. I don't care. And they were just like, no, you can't do all of that. And I was like, but these are all the things that I love. And why can't I why would I have to sacrifice something? Because like, you don't like, I always was attracted to advertising. I always loved branding and things like that. I always loved public art. I loved parks, even from when I was a little kid, playing on sculptures with my sisters. Like, these are all things that inspired me. And so like, why wouldn't I go after that gut feeling instead of just like going into this little narrow space that everyone wants me to be in? They're like, you can't do that. You can't open a gallery with your partners and also show other artists and represent people from all over the world and like, partner with developers and do big public projects. It's like people try to limit you. They're like, you're just an artist. You have to go here and you just make stuff. And then that goes into the gallery and then the gallery takes it to the museum. And I'm like, says who? I could do whatever. Someone made that up.
Yep.
Someone made up a gallery.
Totally.
Someone made up a museum at some point. And so it's like you just do whatever you want and then hope for the best.
I think there's something just freeing about saying, these rules don't need to apply to me as long as I have conviction, as long as I have clarity. You're not doing it without a vision. You're not like tetherless floating in the world being like, screw the rules.
No.
You're doing it not actually even really to be against what is, but more to do what is
You're following your path. And also I'm not like just frolicking about, just like dabbing paint on things. Like, when I was little, I was very lucky. I grew up with two parents, hardworking. And my dad was always like, no matter what you're doing, I don't care. Be an artist, be a doctor, be a tennis player, be the hardest worker in the room. I get up at 4 a.m. every single day. I work all day. I mean, for years, I didn't even take Sundays off. Like, I was just like, I am going to make it. I don't care what happens. I don't care what anyone says. I'm going to do it to just prove it to myself at least. Because I think when you're a kid and people ask you, like, what do you want to be? You're like, I want to be an astronaut. It's like no one actually thinks they're going to be an astronaut. You know what I mean? And I was like, I want to be an artist. And then I was like, you kind of question it. And you're like, can I be that? Like, can I be great at something? Like, someone has to be great at it. Someone has to be Michael Jordan. Somebody has to, like, I guess it's just whoever wants it.
Yeah.
And like, we're all just people. And so like, you just go for it and you don't stop.
How much of it do you think is innate talent versus the hard work?
Mine was more hard work than talent.
Me
like
too.
I could draw and I could paint and do stuff, but like my early work was terrible. Like I had to work so much harder, I feel like, than everyone. Like, I feel like everyone else early naturally had it. And so a lot of the people that I knew were making it really early on. And then fast forward like 15 years later, I'm in a much different standing now because I just work all day, all night.
Yeah.
That's all I do. Like, I'm just like, what's my vision? What's my goal? What am I trying to do? How do I want to respond to space? What do I want to give to the world? Like, what am I trying to say? Like, what's happening? What's my goal? You know, and that's like what I love doing. It's fun. It's not even work.
Yeah.
Because I love it so much.
One of the values at Fahrenheit, one of our core values is do the work. And it sounds so simple, but it literally just means like do it. Do the work.
Hard.
Sit down, do the work. So many times I've been like, I'm incapable of this. I don't know how to do this. I'm not good enough for this. I've never done this before. And actually what you realize is at some point, every single person is sitting there asking the same question or saying that same
Every
statement.
job I've ever gotten, I have no idea. Like
What I'm
every
doing.
new project, I'm like, yeah, I got this. And then I go back to my team, I'm like, dude, I have no idea how to do this. We need to figure this out right now.
Yeah.
Team meeting. Everybody come together. And then we figure it out somehow. And then we just go. And it's
Absolutely.
like, that's what everybody does.
Yeah.
You just go and believe in yourself and then just let it happen. And I think the biggest thing is like not operating out of fear and not being like, oh, I'm scared to do this, but being like, all right, I'm excited to go after this and like do even better than I think I can do. And then like the work just somehow is better with that mindset. Like
So powerful.
You can problem solve, you can connect, you can hear other people's thoughts more. I mean, just through being open, like I ask like assistants that I'm working with on projects and I'm like, what do you like? We'll like freestyle something on the spot. And then I'm like, what do you think about this part of the installation? And they're like, dude, what about like this? And then I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. And then we totally implement it. And then it changes the entire project. It's just being open to everything in the world that's coming your way and like seeking it out and just being curious.
But also the positive mindset of it of like, I'm an active participant in this choice of like doing the work, of grinding, of like going after what I want, of not taking no for an answer, not listening to the rules that exist, like actually looking at that in the way you said it of like with fearlessness instead of fear and owning that it is a process just like anything else.
Yeah.
I think a big strength for me has come from the team because at a certain point, you know, I was running marketing for an organization, looked at to have all of the answers. And I think at Fahrenheit, we try to cultivate an environment that is like, you can fail, you can not have the answer, you can totally raise a hand and ask for help. I can't tell you how many times I look at the team and say, I have no idea how to navigate this, never done this before. We just did a CGI project recently, our first one.
That
We
sounds
were like,
awesome.
we have no idea how to do this, but like, let's rock. And like ultimately looked at each other after and was like, that was really easy for us. Like we knew how to do that. We did not give ourselves enough credit. And so I think part of that comes with the mindset shift of like, you actually are never going to have the answer if you're doing anything brave, if you're doing anything for the first time, if you're pushing yourself to new places or new boundaries. How could you possibly be prepared for that moment?
You can't.
It's actually like an oxymoron. It is inevitable that you are going to be at the baseline staring at something for the first ever time.
Yeah.
And you can either be fearful or fearless in your approach.
Yeah, it's good to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's
the best.
typically live in the state of
Me
uncomfortability.
too.
But it's like in my work, that's important because if not, I like get stagnant. And then it's like, that means I'm just making the same crap over and over because it sells. And like, I get bored with that in 2 seconds.
To your younger self, whose art you thought was not so good,
Mhm.
what would you say now?
Honestly, I think my work only got better. It like almost grew up as I grew up. You know what I mean? Like as I matured, my work started maturing. I think my work, like I could tell, like when I was 20, my work looked and felt like it was a 20-year-old making it. You know, it wasn't somebody who really knew who they were and who was looking at the world in a curious way and trying to understand everything around them. It was like more just like an angry lost 20-year-old that was just like, what the hell is going on out here? And then like, that's why the work was like that. And I think like the better I looked inward, the better everything just got in general in life. You know what I mean? Like that's why I like problem solving. That's why I like doing stuff like that, because I realized that like everything just gets better the more I do that.
Awesome. Let's open it up to questions. Raise a hand.
You had mentioned that you really like having directions from your clients, making sure that you have the boundaries in place to not go buck wild with a project. I'm curious to hear like when it starts to feel a little too overboard and you're actually losing the creativity that you once had, and then you're starting to be like, okay, this is no longer my slate. This is now something that you and I are just not seeing eye to eye on. Would love to.
Oh, 100%. I obviously can't say who, but I'm working on something in the last year where a client was very overly like, oh, you know what? You should put this here. You know what? My favorite color is this. Let's bring in this, take this color out. And I'm just like, what is like, do you want to just take the reins and make the piece? Like, why are you even paying me? And it's funny because it was the first time that somebody's done that. I'm really lucky at this point. People are just kind of like, do your thing. And I present them with a few things and they're like, that one. Or maybe they're like, oh, it's a little, like maybe tame it a little bit, but like they don't, this person, it was like 50 different iterations. And they're like, no, 1 inch to the left. And I'm like, listen, dude, like, relax. I have to sort of check myself as well because there's like a line in the sand that I have to draw where it's like there's only so much feedback I can take before I'm just making something for you that you're telling me to make. And like, I'm not really interested in doing that. I try to draw that line with them and just say, listen, the way I work is that you pay me this fee to sketch and I'm going to give you 5 iterations. That's going to give us 5 back and forths. So that means we have to communicate really well. You and your team have to really like, because then it's also, there's multiple people in companies and they have layers. And so you send something to them and maybe only some of them see it. And they're like, oh, well, Miranda hasn't seen it yet. And then she comes back with her awesome feedback and people keep piling it on. And then you're like, I think the more serious you are with your directions and let them know exactly how your process is. And you're like, you get 3 back and forths. And then after that, you pay for 3 more. And so then they're like, oh, okay, let me take this serious. Like, okay. And then so they give you notes. And I say, I want specific notes so I can respond. And hopefully in 1 shot, we get it done, if not 3. And then that's it. And that usually helps clear it up. It's only been like once where they didn't pick up what I was dropping off.
Yeah. Managing directors like, yes. And I'm like, I break this boundary every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Hello. I'm curious if there has been a piece of art or a project that somebody else has created that you have seen recently that really struck a chord with you and affected you. And if so, why?
I mean, there's so much work that I see. I mean, I see art. I'm like a nerd. And so like I see everything. Somebody taught me because I didn't go to school for art. And so somebody, when I was really young, an older artist, his name is Typoe Gran, he said, it's fine that you don't go to school, but you need to know art history and you have to see everything around you so you don't reinvent the wheel. And so like I'm always just immersing myself in things and just trying to see what's happening. And so, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, there's so many good painters and sculptures, and I'm going to New York in the morning to just see, like, I literally have an entire map of like hundreds of galleries that I'm going to go see and just like immerse myself. I try to look at everything. And I'm also in people's studios all the time, like just like feeling people's processes. And like, I know someone who like, they're like, dude, my peak performance hours are from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. while I'm on acid blasting techno music.
Love him.
Which is like, I go to bed at 9:30 p.m. And so that's like my worst nightmare. But like, it's cool to see what someone else's process is, you know? And so I like to just be present and nerd out about that stuff and see like how everyone takes in their creativity.
Do you ever suffer from like creative fatigue or lacking inspiration? And if so, how do you combat it? And I'm more interested in when you're in a project, how you combat it if you're like coming up tight on a deadline.
Yeah, creative fatigue is definitely real. I said this a while back in another interview. I watched this documentary, it'll all make sense in a minute, about Lil Wayne. And there was something so awesome that he said was that all he did was listen to his own music and he re-inspired himself through his own style. And I thought that was so interesting. And after that, I started putting all my stuff, almost like a mood board, and looking at everything I've done from the beginning to now, so I could literally see the roadmap of where I'm going. And I could, sometimes you don't look at past projects, at things you've created. Like, it's easy to forget, pick up, move on to the next one. And so I start seeing my visual language and where it's going. And then I'm like, oh, duh, I know what to do next. Like, I did that like 2 years ago on this other project. Or maybe I'll take this thing and then I'll like twist it and do something new to that, a new spin. And so I try to look at things that I've done and sort of try to like re-inspire myself. And then hopefully it takes it somewhere different.
I think in the opening keynote, we touched on identifying as a creative and the element of imposter syndrome. Sometimes that can come up. So I think often a piece of that is feeling like you need to do it all yourself. It needs to be just you to do the work to get there, to become great. So I really struck a chord when you brought up leaning on your assistants in real time to help you create. When you bring up your team and the people that you lean on, like what does that look like? Who do you find inspiration, support from day to day right now?
Oh man, everybody. I have my manager, I have my business partners, I have Jacob, Books and Christina. I have multiple fabricators that we utilize. I have different assistants depending on like whether it's painting or sculpting or different materials. If there's one thing that I know, it's that I know nothing. And so like I'm always asking people like, hey, look at this. What do you think? Like sometimes I'll send Jacob a sketch and be like, yo, what do you think? And I'm like, fuck yeah, like I killed it. And he's like, this sucks. And then I'm like, oh man. And then I'm like mad for like 2 seconds and then kind of sad. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to crush it again. And then I send it back and he's like, all right, better. It's kind of like all the people around me, because I've known them for so long, they're like mirrors and they're like holding it up to me so I can like see the reflection of myself. Because sometimes it's so hard when you're so close to the chalkboard to read the writing. And so it's nice to have all these people around me that can kind of like get my back and be like, dude, you're seeing it in the wrong way. Turn it like this. And then I'm like, oh my God, it's a whole nother world. I need that. Like when I'm alone too long, it like, number one, I get weird. Like if it's like, if you're just like making stuff in a room by yourself for too long, you like emerge like a lemur and like it gets, you forget how to like talk to people. You don't know how to shake hands. You start being weird. I like having people around me because I get to throw ideas at everybody and see what sticks. And then they throw it back and then they're like, oh, I like that, but try it like that. And so that's always really helpful. Like I think my team is like everything. You know, and like the support, and that's the same thing in just life. My family, my friends, everybody around me, like I'm only as strong as like my network.
As an artist with a very defined style, how do you approach your tattoos? Like, do you have a very
My tattoos?
exactly what you want, or do you do you let other artists like kind of do what they want? Like, is it more like you're kind of giving your bodies a canvas, or do you like know exactly what you want when you go into the studio?
Well, so I started getting tattooed when I was 14, and so I had a interesting childhood. Somewhat
creative childhood.
turbulent, as my grandma would say. I only really get tattooed by my friends and people that I know and that I grew up with. I don't go to like famous tattoo artists and like do all of that, and usually my friends come to my house and tattoo me, and like either I'll draw it or they'll draw it or we'll draw it together, and we kind of all just like collaborate and just like. It's kind of just like my whole life of just like from youth to now of just like craziness and happiness and love and destruction, all the beautiful things in life. Yeah.
Real story.
Yeah. It's try to keep it real.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about how you are able to block out the outside noise and connect with yourself. And that's really important to you. I struggle with that so much. And I was wondering, is that something that you implement, like a practice that you implement to be able to do that? Or is that something that's innate to you? Like you just can block it out?
I think after realizing that I don't know anything and then realizing that nobody knows anything, then like other people's opinions held a lot less weight. Like, why do I care so much what anyone else is telling me? And I'm not listening to my own gut. You know what I mean? And like, I know me obviously better than anyone in the world. And so if I think it's right, go for it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think it's easy to second guess ourselves. It's easy for me to have imposter syndrome and be like, am I good enough to get this project? Am I like, sometimes I'm still like, I cannot believe this person is buying this thing at this amount of money. This is insane. Who is allowing any of this to happen? And it's just like, you know what I mean? It's just like the world is just happening. And I'm like, all right, get back in it, get to work and do it. But it's like, I always just listen to myself. I think it's valuing other people's opinion to like a point, but that's also goes back to like my team around me, because that's the opinions that I need. Like they know who I am. They know my style. They know how crazy I am. They know all of the things, so they could tell me either to shut up or that I'm going in the right direction. And like, those are the people that I listen to the most. My team helps me sort of solidify what I think I already know in the first place and kind of be like, yeah, man, like keep going.
I think it's part of why being a team that is connected, that is human, that understands each other, that takes the time to know each other is so important. some of the people here at Fahrenheit I've worked with now for over 10 years at multiple companies, and no one gives it to me straight quite like them. And not only because they're good at what they do, but because they know what I'm capable of. They know when I'm on point. They know when I'm in flow. They know when I've not really done the work and I'm phoning it in.
Yeah.
So part of that knowing of one another is what makes a team so powerful. It's also trust. And I think you said something so smart, which is it's listening to others to a point. Like listening to others to a point where it is productive, where you're open, where you're learning, where you're challenging yourself, but not where you're negotiating yourself. Not where you're negotiating your creativity, your art, your boundaries, your values.
That's where the line is drawn.
And
Like if you're giving up from yourself and your
Yeah.
dream, then like you have to ask serious questions
It's
to
about-
yourself. Like,
No question.
is this right for me? Because like, again, like it could be a really big project with like an important person or a brand or somebody with a lot of money. And like, you have to ask yourself, like, am I the kind of person that is just going to take that?
Yeah.
Or like, am I going to just do what I think is right? And like, I try to just do like, I don't give a shit how much money someone has. Like, if I don't feel like it's right, or I feel like they're like, we have a strict no asshole policy.
We do too.
100%. And it's like, because life is so short. And imagine you're like stuck on a project with somebody for months, and then it's a really like just a terrible experience and everybody's stressed. Everyone's losing sleep. And it's like, that's not a way to live.
No. Sometimes you learn in the process who someone really is, and that's hard too. And especially when you're a company built on a certain level of values, it's almost like more magnified. Like I think back to some other organizations that I worked at where maybe there wasn't a great culture. I don't think I noticed it as much in like partners or in people I worked with. It was just sort of like, oh, that person's an asshole or that person has bad behavior, no problem. But now that I work in an environment where those values are fostered, respect and communication and supporting one another, the minute that it is not happening, it is so clear. It's so obvious and apparent that it's actually like really like hard to be tolerant, which I think is really
it's helpful. And it's like, I think, we attract like-minded people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no
Like,
question.
I think we act a certain way. A lot of my projects are like, you're at a dinner and you meet somebody, or you're traveling, or you're at a museum thing or whatever, and then you connect, and it's like personalities mixed with the work, it's like it's all together in this big like rubber band ball of things that attract everything towards each other. The better you get at knowing what you want, having that attitude of trying to do something good for the world, I feel like you start to attract more of that and less of like the crazy stuff.
Very true. Amen.
Yeah. Preach.
Where do you get the confidence?
Where do I get the confidence? It's all make believe. I never know what's going on. And I'm just like, all right, I'm going to do this. And dear God, I hope it works. And because like, I think that if I don't try, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. And like, that's the thing that makes me do everything that I do every day. And so like, I think when I was young, I had maybe a fear that I wasn't good enough to do all the things I wanted to do. And then I was like, that's so stupid because I haven't even tried yet. How sad would that be if I never even tried? And it's just like, you just do it. And then if you fail, then you can be sad about it. Yeah.
To close this out, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for being on both the Fahrenheit podcast and Offsite special guest today. To close this out, right before we started, you were telling me about a text message you sometimes would get from my dad.
Oh,
so I thought it'd be the perfect thing to end.
Yeah. Well, and so, like Farryn said, we did a project with her dad in Chicago. We curated this big fun art project. And so he would for years afterwards, he would always just randomly text me, for the love of the game. And it was just like this positive thing, and this like, and those are the kind of people that I always want to be around, is like the people that just love what they're doing and they will put their whole heart into it. And like, that's so important. And he was that person. And so it's like, those are the little things that you like, it's the little things that make everything else better. It's like that little bit of communication, little bit of like everything that just makes you never forget stuff like that.
And the ability to just go for it for the love of the game.
Yeah, you do it. You don't be scared and you just do it. Even if you're terrified and you think it might not work and it might look stupid, just do it anyway.
Let's go for the gold. Thank you so much, Typoe.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to this special Mental Health Month episode of the Fahrenheit podcast. We're proud to be a part of this important conversation, and we hope it inspires you to keep going. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. See you next time. If you're going through a tough time or struggling, you are not alone. You can text HOME, HOME, to 741-741 anytime to reach a trained crisis counselor. It's free, available 24/7, and completely confidential.